Hey everyone, welcome to Papercut. This is Chris here. What I have for you today is a password manager called KeePass. We're going to run through installation and the basics, so enjoy. All right, KeePass. First thing we need to do is we need to grab the actual software. So go ahead and open up your browser of choice. I personally use Mozilla, so that's what I'm going to be using today. And in your search engine, type in KeePass. It's K-E-E-P-A-S-S. Depending on that browser and the search engine you're using, you're going to get some different responses. You're looking for KeePass password safe. It's got https keepass.info, and when you click on the link, it should look like this. Now, I recommend going through here and reading about this. I'm not going to do that today. I'm actually just going to go under Getting KeePass and select Downloads. There are two different ways you could approach this. If you're going to install this on multiple devices, you might want the portable version. I'm actually just going to grab the exe file or the installer, excuse me. Underneath the most current version, which is 2.37. It looks like you can also grab the older version if you want. I've been using the newer version, so that's what I'm going to go with. When you select it, what happens is basically it's going to begin downloading, as you can see, and there we go. It's popping my save file, which I'll go ahead and hit save. The download is complete, and I will select it from my download queue. You could also open your download folder if you didn't have that on your browser. And we'll start this installation. I'm going to shut down the browser just to give us a little bit more real estate here. And I'm going to go ahead and say yes. The language I want is English, and I'm going to accept to their terms. I'm going to use the default area to install KeePass, although you can choose where you want to install this. I am getting flagged because I've already installed this before. You most likely will not see that. The next screen just talks about what you're going to install. I would recommend installing everything, although you can uncheck that if you want to. And then, of course, the last thing is just adding some quick links, some shortcuts, all of that kind of stuff. I'll just leave that as default as well. It gives you a summary of what we just did and hit install. Now, because this is a pretty lightweight software package, you can see it installed relatively quickly. And I'm going to leave launch KeePass checked, so when I hit finish, it will go ahead and launch our KeePass. Now, the first thing that happens when you launch KeePass is it's going to ask you if you want, automatic updates, and I definitely recommend doing that. So I'm going to hit enable, although that's up to you. You could hit disable or whatever you want to do there. At this point, it is checking to make sure we are on the most current version, and it is dropping us into KeePass. Okay. So from here, what's going to happen is basically you're going to click on new. We need to go out, we need to create a brand new database. The database is where we're going to house the usernames and passwords. I can identify that from clicking it here. I can also click on the file and then click new. Either way works, they're both exactly the same. From this point, KeePass is going to be kind of telling you what you're doing. You're creating a brand new database, so go ahead and hit OK. And then it's going to have you basically choose where you want to store this file. This is a very important file, so I recommend not keeping it in your documents folder or on your desktop or anything like that. For this example, I am, funny enough, going to go ahead and store it on my documents, but I recommend storing it somewhere else. And I think we'll just name this Papercut for this example. Okay, so at this point, we need to go ahead and create a master password. Now, I'm going to use a master password. I'm going to enter in my master password so I can remember it, although you're going to make one up here. And if you need to see what you're entering, you can click on this ellipsis here, which will identify and show the password for you. I'm going to actually hide that from you guys as I enter this. Of course, it's going to require you to enter it again. Like that. And go ahead and hit OK. Now, at this point, what it wants you to do is name the database, which I'll call it Papercut. And you can walk through these other options. There's security options, compression options, recycle bin options if you want to have a recycle bin, which keeps your username and password when you delete it. That's completely up to you, and I find these to be more kind of personal preference. If you do want me to go through these settings, just let me know and we can maybe create more of an advanced video. I'm gonna go ahead and hit OK, and the last thing that's gonna happen here before we start pumping in our usernames and our passwords is it's just asking me if I want to print an emergency sheet. I recommend doing it. It's the information that we just input, and then you could go ahead and save that in a safe location. I'm not going to print that, and I'm just going to hop right into PaperCut. So from here, what's going to happen is basically you can see PaperCut's actually created 2 entries for us. You could, I guess, edit these entries and see what they're all about, but we're going to walk through that. So in this case, I'm going to delete both entries, which actually fall into my recycle bin. So if you really want to delete them, you need to go to the recycle bin and then go ahead and select the entries and delete them. Also, PaperCut created a folder structure for us, and I'll leave it here for today. You can delete these, you can create your own folder structure. You can see you can identify icons on these, which is nice when organizing your usernames and your passwords. I'll leave it here today. You guys can do what you want with this and make your own folder structure. But the first thing we need to do really here is just to drop in an entry. I can right click in this screen to add an entry, and I can also come up here and click add entry, however you want to do that. I'm just going to select add entry from right clicking, and you need to title your entry. So I will title this our sample entry. And the second thing you're going to do is identify your username. This is usually your email address, but you know, as you know, some logins you can create your own specific username, and that's where you're going to put this in here. Today what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually log in as PaperCut. I'm going to log into my Gmail account when I demonstrate this for you. So I'm going to enter that as my username. Passwords. So passwords, you could enter in your current password. I would suggest if you're using a password manager, this grants you the ability to set up a way more complex password because you're not entering this in, right? So I might take the time to actually generate a new one. And you can do that by actually coming down here, clicking on your generator tool, which will allow you to create like a 40-bit, 128-bit, a 256-bit, which is crazy. And then you can come in here and modify it. You can also open the generator itself, which will allow you to go in and set specific conditions. I know there's a lot of logins that don't allow like the dollar symbol, for example. So you can just set that up and how you want it to actually generate it, and then use that. Once again, I'm going to actually use a real password because I'm going to log in for you guys for an example, and I don't want you to see that. So I'm actually going to hide it and enter it in. All right, so after you confirm it, the second to last step, I would say, is to drop in your URL. That's as simple as going out to the site that you're going to log into and dropping that URL in. So if I was going to do Google, I could come out to Google and then go to that sign in screen, however you want to do it. I bet you this works right here. I probably don't even have to go to the sign in screen, but I would recommend going into whatever site you're logging into, go to the sign in page and then just copy the URL from right here. Like I said, I'm using Google, so I'm pretty sure I can just type in Google and we should be good. Put any notes that you want in here. Sometimes sites require like secondary authentication, like you might have to remember your favorite food or your mother's maiden name or things like that. I personally put those here so I can remember them. And the last thing you can do is actually set an expiration date. This does not void your password or your username. It's not like it deletes it or anything like that. It just reminds you that you told the software that this should expire. So it's actually a good thing to do because it's not deleting anything. It's just going to notify you when you said you should probably change your password. And that's it. Hit OK, and you're done. Kind of. It didn't save yet. And if I were to exit out, it would tell me that I didn't save. I personally know I didn't save because I can see this little asterisk above the file name. So just make sure that you save after you do something. Like I said, it will prompt you if you try to get out of here before saving. You can see the asterisk is gone. We're good to go. And we could actually demonstrate this now. Now, the way I'm going to demonstrate this, you're not going to do it this way, but I will demonstrate how you could do this without a browser extension. So the nice thing about KeePass is that it will allow you to copy stuff to your clipboard for a certain amount of time, which is really cool. So for example, when I double click the username, you see this little timer pop up. What's happening here is this timer is only going to allow me to paste whatever I'm copying. So in this case, it was the username, until that timer runs up. The moment that timer runs up, I can't paste anymore. So now if I come back in here and I try to paste again, it's not letting me. You can see my clipboard's blank and I have nothing to paste anymore. And that's really cool when you're cutting and pasting passwords, as we are going to do right now. So let's go ahead, hop into the browser. I'll pull Google back up. You would pull whatever site you just created up, or whatever login you just created. And I'm gonna go over to sign in, and I'm gonna alt tab back to my KeePass, and I'm gonna double click the username. I'm gonna click this line. I'm gonna hit Control V to paste that, and I'm gonna hit next. And then I just do the same thing for the password. I would come over here, grab my password, and then go in, and paste my password. Really easy, but very time consuming, and you're not going to do that over and over again. So I really just wanted you to see what it would look like without a browser extension, with going in and copying this username and copying this password. They made it nice in the sense that it's not going to stay out there, it deletes itself, but kind of a poor option for logging in. Right, that's that convenience thing that I was talking about earlier, that you're kind of trading up for more of a secure solution. So let's make it easier, because that's ridiculous. To make it easier, I'm going to add in a browser extension to Mozilla. Now, unfortunately, I'm using Mozilla today, so I apologize if you use Chrome. I find it hard to believe they don't have an extension out there, but I don't use Chrome, so I don't know. I'm going to actually come out here to my settings, and I'm going to go to add-ons, where I have extensions right here. And I'm going to go ahead under the search engine. I'm just going to type in KeePass. Now, what I'm looking for is KeyFox. That's the one that I like to use. There will always be multiple third-party applications. You know, every time I explore software, I just try a couple out and see what's best. And this is the one that definitely works best. So I'm going to go ahead and hit install. Now it's going to go ahead and install. It did it relatively quickly, and you can see it wants me to restart my browser now. So I'll go ahead and do that. Now, one thing that's important to note here, it's going to start to walk through its setup, is that you need to have KeePass running to have it connected to your browser. I'll talk about that here in a second, but really that's what's happening right now. The browser is trying to basically ask us if we can authorize it to access our passwords and our usernames. And if I come down and click on KeePass on my taskbar, you notice there's two windows now. The second one is basically KeePass giving us that authorization code. So we copy it. It's all in red letters right here. You can enter it in. I'm just going to copy it by highlighting it and then hitting Control C and Control V to paste it here and hit OK. So now we are connected. You can see up here that the KeyFox is now enabled. It's no longer gray, and we could start to use it. The one thing I was mentioning really quick is that you need to have KeePass running in the background. Now, I will show you a tip, because you're not going to want to probably minimize this and have it sit on your taskbar all day. Maybe that doesn't bother you. That definitely bothers me. So I actually recommend going into Tools and going into Options. And here under Interface, you'll see that you can check a box that says Minimize to Tray instead of onto the taskbar. And that just allows you to basically, if you're going to pay bills or do something like that, you just log into KeePass and then minimize it. It's no longer on your taskbar, but it allows me to keep this enabled in the browser. Hopefully I didn't confuse you there. So now when I go out and I go to something like Google and I go to log in, what's going to happen is it should fill it in for you, which you can see it's actually doing it for me right here. It's saying that's my username, and then saying this is my password, and then of course I would log into my account. Now what you could also do, let me do this one more time, is you could also right click there. So let's say that it didn't fill that in for you. Sometimes it's a little finicky and it just won't fill it in for you. I don't know why, but it does weird things like that every now and then. I think it has to do with basically the conditions for login through whatever site you're going into. Although let's say it didn't fill it in, so I come over here to sign in and my username or my password wasn't there. You can always just click here right click, and then you can see it says find matching logins, and it will go ahead and find it and then fill it in. All right, so hopefully that makes it a lot easier, right? No one wants to go in and copy and paste the password and username every single time. Something else I was going to show you really quick, I'm going to pop that browser back open, is I'm going to go out to a new site. I'm going to come out here to Twitch, and when I come out here, what you're going to see is that I have to log in, and KeePass currently does not have my information. And the reason that I'm doing it this way is I wanted to show you that if you ever sign up for like a news site, or you sign in somewhere where KeePass currently doesn't have that information, it will ask you if you want to store it, which is really nice. So I can come in and actually log in here. And you can see right here at the top, it says that, and I entered my wrong password, which is hilarious. It says, hey, do you want us to remember this? And you can come in here, choose the folder where you want that to go. So for example, let's say I wanted it like in my general folder, or I don't know, maybe it's like it's a login. So I'm gonna go to internet, and then I could say create. And what KeePass is gonna do is make it so you don't have to go manually add that. So remember, if you did minimize that, it's down in your task tray now. So just double click it from that task tray and it will pull it up. And you're probably wondering why it didn't create it here. Well, we dropped it under the internet folder. So it dropped it under here, and now you can see that it created a new username. Just a nice kind of little thing that they're doing to allow ease of use, right? So you don't have to come back here, open this up and create it and all of that kind of stuff. KeePass does have its quirks, but I think it's a solid software application. As you saw today, you are giving up some convenience for more security, but that's completely up to you and kind of how you want to use a password manager. All right, so that was our video on KeePass and password managers. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave those in the comments. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.